So good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming. I'm glad that you're here. Today, we're going to talk about the topics of acupressure and reflexology. These are two therapies which we offer at our center with the generosity of our two professionals that will present them today. And many of our participants discover these therapies for the first time. So we wanted to take the time today to explore and explain the benefits when receiving acupressure and reflexology, so that the next time that you're at the center and you can benefit from these sessions, you can just lay back and take it all in because you'll already know why it's good for you. We'll start with acupressure, and I will present to you Debbie White.
Hi, everyone.
Debbie is the owner of Blossoming Spirit. Her practice is geared towards helping people discover and transform patterns that create roadblocks in order to reorient them towards what will fulfill their desires. We're all different, but generally we have the common desire to live a whole, balanced, joyful life. Debbie's work is with the 5 elements through various modalities like Feng Shui, Qigong, Chinese dietics, I hope I pronounced that properly, and acupressure. Today we wanted to explain the acupressure, which is the therapy that Debbie offers at the center. So Debbie's prepared a presentation. I'll hand over the mic to her, so to speak, and she's going to share her presentation and take you through it.
Okay, so I can't see everybody, but just to say it's nice to connect. For those who maybe haven't met me, I've been at the center for a few years now. I started primarily with Reiki treatments and then eventually switched over to acupressure in the last few years. So I'm going to try sharing my presentation with you. Okay, so as I said, the topic for today is acupressure, but before I can sort of explain what that is like to receive as a treatment or what it's all about, we kind of have to go back to the origin of where it came from, which is, originates from Chinese medicine. So where did that come from? Well, it goes back, you know, we say 3,000 years, probably many more in fact, but it goes back to a long time ago when people were a little more connected to nature and observing the patterns that occur in nature. So they use those observations to understand how we interact with our environment and how those energies impact us. Whether it was in regards to where they would choose to live that was going to be well protected from storms and whatnot, whether it was which herbs can be beneficial for us when we're experiencing some kind of ailment, or just in general, how can we maintain our body through certain practices such as martial arts and Qigong, etc. So in observing those patterns, then they could really tune into the finer details of how does energy move. And from there came the other concepts of yin and yang and the 5 elements. So it is a holistic approach based on these patterns, as I said, that we'll get into a bit more. And the goal is to harmonize the energy body. So it understands that when one part of the body is affected, all parts of the body are affected. So when we talk about holistic, that's really what we mean, is it considers, you know, the physiology, the physical aspects, as well as the emotional and spiritual aspects of what it is that brings rise to a condition in the body in the first place. So I put this little quote because I thought it captured really perfectly the essence of how Chinese medicine approaches this interconnectedness that we're talking about. So it says, the body is to nature as a violin is to an orchestra. The strings are to the violin as the organs are to the body. For the orchestra to play in harmony, all the instruments must be tuned to one another. If a single instrument is out of tune, then the whole sound is dissonance rather than in harmony. So that pretty much encapsulates the idea that, you know, everything impacts the next thing and that we're all connected. So Chinese medicine is like a big umbrella with various pillars of what their idea was of how to live well and healthy. And so I just listed here just to give people a general sense of all the disciplines that fall under the umbrella of Chinese medicine. So there's acupressure and tuina, which is a version of an acupressure massage, I guess. There's acupuncture, which people are most familiar with. Herbology, feng shui and geomancy, tai chi and qigong is energy movement exercises. Meditation was integral, dietetics and nutrition was integral, and they even relied on cosmology and divination. So coming back to the following of nature and its patterns, they relied on the cycles of the moon to give them guidance, whether it was for planting a crop or, you know, what time to wake and what time to rest and so on. They really set themselves according to these natural cycles. Okay, so yin and yang in the 5 elements. This could probably be a topic unto its own, so I'm not going to go into the vastness of it, because to me it's kind of like trying to unravel the mysteries of the universe. I'm not qualified to do that, so I'm just going to touch on the essence of why it matters in terms of acupressure. And so how do we look at that? Yin and yang basically speaks to the polarities that exist. So we understand that our bodies are made up of energy, and that even if we look on a cellular level, there's positive ions and negative ions in the body. So yin and yang, if you want to just look at it very loosely, it's about the polarities in the system. So when we're looking at moving energy through the body, do we want to move the energy up or do we want to move the energy down? Does the body need to be warmed or cooled? It gives us indicators on what is out of balance and what is the opposition that's required to bring it back into balance. Understanding that we are always moving through this cycle. It's a never-ending process. It's not like we get into a stuck pattern and we stay there permanently. There's always alchemy happening in the body. But these are ways of giving us clues. When we understand what yin and yang means and pertains to, it gives us a clue on how to proceed with the treatment. The 5 elements is the other cornerstone of Chinese medicine. So they're fire, earth, metal, water, and wood. So these are words that we give to the elements, but they're not only described by the word, like their meaning is much greater than the words. So it's more of a phase actually, or a movement, or a transformative capacity. So we give them those words as elements because it helps us intellectualize and compartmentalize what it might mean in the body. But with the understanding that it's really talking about a movement and a transformation more than, you know, wood meaning trees. It's much more vast than that. But so these are the 2 components that is the basis of all those other practices under the umbrella of Chinese medicine. So they work in relationship to each other. As I mentioned, that the premise of this system is based on cycles and how energy moves. And so we can learn a lot about ourselves by understanding this cycle. So for the productive cycle, this is where we would experience health or harmony in the system. So why is that? Well, they looked at each element is basically like the mother of the element that comes after. So for example, in the productive cycle, the water is the mother of the wood. So what does a tree need to grow? Well, it needs water, right? First, when we plant a seed, we need to water it. So the water is the impetus to have the growth of the wood energy. So then we would look at the next in line, the next relationship would be wood to fire. So how do we build a fire? Most commonly, we get wood, right? So now the wood will support or feed the fire element. And then if we continue, when we see fire, what does it become? After its embers, it becomes ash and it goes back into the earth. And then from the earth, we extract the minerals of the metal element. So each element plays a role in bringing about the completion of a cycle. And without these cycles or completions, we wouldn't have growth, we wouldn't have change. And as we are made up of energy at our core, this is how we understand how to keep the energy in balance in the body. So if we look at the other two cycles, that's when things get disorderly or not going according to a natural order or a natural cycle. And so instead of the mother nurturing the child, it becomes the opposite. So now the child has become overly demanding and is draining the mother, so to speak. So that would be in the weakening cycle. That's what's happening. So you may start to feel discomfort in the system when you're in a weakening cycle, or sometimes we use a weakening cycle if there's an abundance of something that we want to reduce. So if there's some kind of stagnation in the system, then I look to the weakening cycle to help drain that stagnation and help get the energy, the excess of energy, drained. So there is a use for every cycle. There's not one that's good or bad. It's just to understand what's going to be the effect. And for the destructive cycle, that is when you have to aggressively remove an influence or control an influence. So generally, this is when you would see symptoms kind of producing in the body, because something has gone in a disharmonious state for too long, and now it's creating a manifested result. Okay, but that's kind of all we need to know about that for now, just to give you a sense of why is it useful to understand these relationships between the elements. Okay, so getting on to the meridian system. So this is, you know, not a very clear image of how the meridians travel through the body, but at least it gives you a global view what's happening. Because oftentimes, you know, somebody will say their shoulder hurts and I'm working on their ankle, and they're probably wondering, like, why is she there? That's not where I said the problem is. But this is why. It's because it's a very intricate network, and so we can access different areas. We don't have to work in the area where the problem is existing. So there's 12 organ meridians, and each one has a yin-yang partner, which relates to a specific element. So each element has 2 meridians associated with it, except for the heart, which is the exception, but we'll get into that too. So again, why yin and yang is relevant is because the yin meridians move upward and the yang meridians move downward. So sometimes that is important to know. Which meridian am I working with and which direction is it flowing? So this energy is continuously going through the body throughout the day. And each meridian has a 2-hour period where it will be most active. So for example, if you have a problem in the stomach or spleen meridian, its time of day where it is most active is from 11 till 1 o'clock, let's say, or 9 to 11. It's more likely maybe to manifest or show up during the time when that meridian is most active. That's not always the case, but it just gives us an idea. We know what is happening, you know, where is the majority of the activity throughout the day in those meridians. And it can also help us arrange ourselves that we're doing activities at the right time. So this is what is called the body clock, and it'll just give you a sense of what I was talking about. So a lot of people say, for example, if you want to do meditation practices or yoga practice or qigong practice, the best time to do it is like 5 in the morning. Well, okay, is it just because it's quiet and nobody's busy at that time? Maybe. But it's also the time of the metal element, and the metal element rules the lungs and therefore the breath. And metal is also, one of its attributes is concentration and focus. So yes, you know, around 5 a.m. is a good time to do those practices because it's quiet and maybe we have, you know, the privacy to do it, but it's because in the body, that's what's also being supported at that time. So you can, I think this will be shared. So if anybody wants to look at this in greater detail, it's just kind of fun because it sort of explains in a sense why we do things the way we do things when we do things. So it's kind of interesting how it correlates. Okay, so to the topic more specifically of acupressure. Sorry about that. So it is a non-invasive technique that facilitates the movement of the energy in the body and helps restore the system to a state of balance. By applying the gentle pressure along these meridians at specific points, we bring intention to the area, which is really an important aspect of, I'm sure in reflexology as well, the intention you're bringing to the area that you're working in and of itself will create a reaction in the body. So intention, awareness, and it will increase the activity in the organ meridian. So what does that mean? Like, what do we mean by energy? It's not just like, ooh, I like your vibe, I like your energy. We have different energetic processes that are happening in the body that are measurable and scientific, and we know this. You know, we have our digestive energy, the energy of our cell activity that's happening, our nerve activity, the electrical currents of the heart as well. These are all different forms of energy networks. And so just as the blood is moving through our body in the venous system, the energy moves through our meridians, much in the same way. So it's all part of our energetic composition, but it's a different aspect that maybe can't be seen and mapped out as clearly as like the organs themselves. Okay, so how do we observe a disharmony? So for anybody who has had a session with me, it's by and large, you know, listening and observing what is happening with that person. What are they expressing? So either it's a physical pain they're expressing, or it's an emotion. It could also be if I notice like, wow, they're really, really hot, or they're all bundled up and they're very cold. These are all clues that help me know what is out of balance in the system. Another system that is used, and this is used in acupuncture as well, is we look at the pulses. Not in the same way that they take a pulse when you go see a doctor. We actually have 3 reads on each wrist. So the left wrist represents, the first location is the heart, the second is the liver, and the third is the kidney yin element. Then the right wrist, the first placement is the lungs, then the spleen and the kidney. And strangely enough, each pulse point can give a different reading. So you wouldn't think that. You would think they would all be exactly the same, but if you do it, it's not the case. One can be very strong and jumping out at you, and one can be almost not even detectable. So this too will give us an indicator of how is the meridian's health, you know, how is it responding at that time. And the other indicator is the tongue. So similar to reflexology, it has a mini map of the organs on the tongue. So depending on what is happening on the tongue, in which area of the tongue, this can also give us another indicator. So it's a little bit like being a detective. That's one of the things I love about Chinese medicine and acupressure is it's not just one simple thing. It's really looking at the person's complete composition and in that moment. So that can change every time you see them. We really look at where is their system at in that moment that we're working together. So getting to know the 5 elements and the organ meridians. So which element belongs to which meridian, and how do we know what it does and what it's responsible for? So just briefly, the heart is the fire element, the stomach spleen is the earth element, the lungs and the large intestine is metal, the kidney and bladder is water, and the wood is liver. It says pancreas here, but for my purposes, we usually look at liver, gallbladder, because I didn't make this image. Okay, so we're going to start with the fire element. So fire is, as I said, pertains mainly to the heart, but over and above that, it's the energy of something coming to its peak or its fullness. So the season that is attributed to fire is summer. It's when everything is blooming and the sun is shining, and it's whatever was coming to light in the spring is now in its fullness in the summer. So how does that manifest in us as an emotion? It's joy. It's like when we're so excited about something, we're fired up. So that's the emotion of that element. So I'll just go through each category. So for the heart, we say it circulates the blood and rules the blood vessels. That's very similar to what Western medicine would say as well. But the difference, I just want to also specify, when I talk about organs, I'm talking about the energy of the organ, not necessarily an anatomical organ. So it's a little bit different in that sense. So when we talk about a sick organ, we're talking about the sick energy of the meridian, or the imbalanced energy of a meridian. So just coming back to the heart, what's sort of special about the heart is it also is said to house our spirit. So if you meet someone whose heart energy is very balanced, like they have rosy cheeks and they have a sparkle in their eye, and it shines through, right? Their spirit is shining through because their heart is very balanced. The flip side of that, when heart energy is imbalanced, the most common emotional manifestation is anxiety, severe anxiety. So, or insomnia. So these are the types of clues when somebody's telling me they're having a hard time sleeping, or they're very anxious or whatever. Right away, I know we're going to be looking at something with the fire energy. The other aspect of the fire element is the pericardium. We often call it the master heart. So it's like the protector of the heart. It creates like a buffer for when we experience trauma or challenging emotions. The master heart sort of helps mitigate how much of that pain gets through to the heart. So it will also gauge our ability to have intimate connections with people and close relationships with others. Moving on to the triple warmer. This is not an organ per se. It's more of a function. So in Chinese medicine, they divide the body into 3 main energy sectors: the lower sector, the middle, and the upper. And so the triple warmer is in charge of ruling fluids and energy that is being distributed to these sectors. It also has to do with our body temperature, regulating our body temperature, and to a certain degree, our intuitive abilities on how we can pick up on, sensing whether you're in danger or whether it's a good situation or not a good situation. Then the small intestine main role is absorption of food from the stomach. So its job is dividing, pure substance from impure substance. And so it has a role in discernment when we're going through emotional processes. It helps us distinguish the truth of the matter and discern in that way. So these energies, like I said, they're movements and they're emotions, and there's so many things in one, but this is roughly what some of the manifestations of something in the fire element pertains to. Okay, so the next one is, we're going to be moving to the earth element. So as you might think, earth is all about feeling grounded. It's like the receptive platform that gives rise to everything else. And so it's the center of our world, our earth, and it's the center of our being as well. And in respect to it pertains to our digestion, our stomach and our spleen. It is part of what holds blood in the vessels too. It has something to do with the direction of flow of things. So for example, if we have an imbalance in the stomach meridian, we might be having reflux or nausea or inability to keep our food down. So any sort of digestive component is definitely something we're going to be looking towards the earth meridians. And emotionally, it's for feeling grounded. So the opposite of that is feeling very preoccupied with obsessive thoughts, obsessive worrying, anxiety to that type of thing. So everything has an opposite, right? We're constantly moving between these states. Okay, so the next one is the metal element. This is a really transformative element. If we think about in the fall, the metal element is related to the fall. So it's when things start to transform from being their full potential to preparing to close the cycle, right? So the leaves fall off the trees and things become dried up. And it's the same on how this manifests on the body. The metal element rules the skin. So dry skin, or in the lungs, a dry cough, this type of thing is a manifestation of an imbalance in the metal element. But it also pertains to our ability to process things, as it does deal with the large intestine. It's about digesting life events, digesting the idea of beginnings and endings, being able to let go of things. The other really important aspect of the metal element is, when we think of metal, we think like, I think of a suit of armor, you know? So it's our immune system as well. So it's what protects us from the outside world. Same with the lungs. We breathe in, it's the transition from outside environment to inside environment. So whenever we're looking to boost the immune system, we're definitely considering the metal element. And then we move on to water. So water in Chinese medicine is the root of all the other processes. So without water, and we can say this for ourselves too, we can't really survive. It's integral to our existence. So it's very much associated with fertility and the beginnings of things. It is the place of infinite potential. So they say it stores our essence, and it's tightly connected to the kidneys and the adrenal glands. So very much connected to a fear response or adrenal fatigue, or you know, in an extreme imbalance, it could also be tending towards depression. So the water element is the north. So it's one extreme would be depression, and the fire element is the south. It's the opposite extreme of anxiety. So there's a special relationship between water and fire. If we think back to those controlling cycles, water controls fire. So if someone with extreme anxiety or extreme depression, we can play with those two polarities to help bring them back into balance. That's just an example of how that's used. Okay. Last one is the wood element. So this is like growth, you know, potential, the newness of a spring, but it's also, let's say we're much like a tree. The wood element regulates how energy moves through the body. So in trees, you know, we pull up from our roots and we pull in from the sun. It's the same with our energy flow in the system. So the liver is in charge of that, spreading energy to all the extremities so that everything is being nourished. It has a lot to do with our muscles and our bones, tendons, the eyes. So all of our structural components. But it also pertains to the way, you know, there's a great creative impulse. There can also be a great emotional impulse of anger. So that is what is associated with the wood element. When it gets to an extremity, it can be like outbursts, angry outbursts. And the gallbladder's role in this is, you know, in physiology, it helps digesting fats. So for us energetically, it also helps us make decisions. So when we get in that analysis paralysis kind of place, it could be an imbalance with the gallbladder, when we just can't seem to distinguish what's the right thing to do anymore, where we can't make a decision, we can't move forward. Okay, so that's, you know, a really quick version of what's happening with all of the elements and how they are really archetypes or characters of our being that are constantly in motion, and we can learn how to work with them and understand ourselves better. So during a session, this is what I'm doing, is I'm assessing what's being said to me and what the symptoms are, and then, you know, from there choosing my points on which meridians I want to work with to help that person restore harmony in the system. And when we do that, we're really activating the nervous system. We're really bringing the nervous system to a place where it can heal. Because it can't do that when it's in a sympathetic response, where it's really in a stress response. The body can't heal. So first we have to bring it to a place where it can receive, and then from there, the body will know what to do. We just give it a signal, and from there, it knows what to do. So I just picked a few points for self-care quickly. This presentation will be shared, so you can refer back to it if you'd like. The best points for self-care, in my estimation, are ones that are for very specific things like calming down your energy and or nausea. I think those are the most effective for self-care. It's very different if you're going to see a practitioner for a chronic situation or something you're working on improving. It may take multiple sessions, and you might not be able to do all the points by yourself, depending where they're located. But this is for quick self-care. So the first one is Renmai 17. It's really right between, right on the sternum, between the breast, in the middle of the breastbone, let's say. Really, really important point for anxiety. No matter what is happening, if you breathe and put intention, you will start to feel much calmer in a short period of time. Just below that is Renmai 15. It's just sort of where your ribs join, combined with the Dumai 24 up here. Also another great point for calming down, especially if it's, you know, head related. So either too many thoughts going on or headaches or vertigo. The combination of Renmai 15 and Dumai 24 is excellent. For nausea, indigestion, ulcers, fatigue, just lacking energy, Renmai 12 with Renmai 6 is excellent. So it's just above the belly button and just below. Really, really, I added some links for some studies, and those two you'll see will be mentioned. They're really powerful points for redirecting the energy down if you're feeling nausea or too much anxiety in the stomach. Okay, then we have Master Heart 6 and Triple Warmer 5. Great points for calming, great points for nausea and boosting the immune system. If I've seen any of you before, I kind of, that's a go-to almost any session. It's just like a natural, nice reset for anybody to boost their system. Then we have large intestine 4. Just know it's not to be done on anyone who's pregnant. Really powerful point to just move energy through the system. It particularly connects to the head, so any upper body pain, it's really, really effective. The last one, kidney 3 and kidney 7, this tonifies yin and yang of the kidney. So it's part of the water element, it's part of our essence, so it's our base energy. So without that, it's really hard to kick off any of the other energies. So if you feel, you know, adrenal fatigue, exhaustion, you have cold hands and feet, that kind of thing, these are really great points. Just as a general tonic, you can do them all the time. And lastly, I just included opening the gates to the feet, because I've had people that talk about neuropathy, whether it's in the hands or the feet. So these are channels on either side of the ankle and or just on the kneecap where you have divots or grooves. Your fingers will naturally fall into these places. And if you just massage the knees and then down to the ankles as well, what it does is it opens these channels that bring the energy down into the feet if you are having neuropathy, and it will help circulate energy into the extremities if it's having trouble getting there. And again, using intention is so incredibly important, because it does actually help usher energy down into the area that you want it to go. So these are just the quick links for studies that have been conducted on the results of acupressure in different scenarios. And that's it for me. So thanks everyone. And I will hand it over to Giovana.
Awesome. Thank you, Debbie.
Did my share stop?
I stopped it, yes.
Okay, perfect.
Before we go on to reflexology, I just wanted to ask, does anybody have any questions for Debbie? All right. Perfect. That was an awesome presentation, Debbie. You answered the majority of my questions.
Okay.
I may take you offline for a couple more, but it's so interesting to learn that acupressure is complementary therapy to anything else that we may be undergoing.
Mm-hmm.
So without any further ado, Giovana is a reflexologist, and I asked her to share with us the benefits of reflexology. She's been practicing now for 4 years, and she's also prepared a wonderful presentation. I think I'll let Giovana present, and then if we have any questions after, we can add questions, and you can also, I see there's a chat, you can also add the questions in the chat. Okay, so are you ready, Giovana? Hang on, it's just, all right, you need to unmute.
Yeah, hi everybody. Thanks for joining us today, and thank you, Debbie, for that beautiful presentation. It kind of was a fantastic segue into what I'm going to present, because they're very much related. They're also, reflexology is another type of energy work, which really works well with intention. So that's how energy work works, right? So I'm going to tell you a little bit about reflexology. I'll give you a little background, and then explain a little bit more in detail. And we have a couple of little points that you can do on your hands, because reflexology can be done on your face, on the ear, hands, feet, or whole body. So in the presentation, we'll go over a little slide that will show a couple of points that you could do on yourself or a loved one. So I'm just going to go ahead and start. Oh, okay, that's not working. Oh, there we go. Okay, so what is reflexology in a nutshell? You know, if somebody were to ask me just quickly, I don't need the whole history and the whole background. Reflexology is like an internal massage of all your organs and all your glands, and it stimulates the healing power of your body. So Debbie talked a little bit about that. You know, we need to calm the nervous system down first, and then the body will know what to do from there. It's just kind of, you know, giving the body a little push in the right direction, reminding it of what it naturally does on its own. So reflexology is another way to access that little window. And we can do it again via the feet, the hands, the ear, the face, or the whole body. So, oops, sorry. I'm having some trouble getting to my next screen here. Okay, so I wanted to start with a couple of foot facts. You may or may not know, you know, we have 26 bones in each foot, 31 tendons, 18 muscles, 30 joints, 107 ligaments, and over 7,000 nerve endings. The nerve endings is really important because it's the nerve endings that will send a signal to the brain via the spine to calm the body down, or to access a gland or an organ, and therefore help healing it. And I just wanted to bring another important little point about the bones. 26 bones in each foot, and there are 26 bones each hand. So between the hands and the feet, those are half of our bones in our entire body. So just wanted to let you know that. We'll go into the quick little history, a little background of reflexology. Like Debbie says, a lot of these modalities have many years of experience, or come from a long way back, long before modern medicine, and it's the way people heal themselves. So in reflexology, it is an ancient healing art, a natural healing art, which dates back to about 2330 BC, and there are records found in China, in India, in Egypt. As a matter of fact, one of the oldest proof is this drawing on an Egyptian tomb of showing of a person holding a foot and a hand and applying pressure. So hand and foot reflexology and applying pressure. So then we fast forward a few years and we come into more modern times, and then I want to talk a little bit about Dr. William Fitzgerald, who is the founder of zone therapy. On the side there, you can see a picture of zones on the feet. And I know the picture is really, really small, but the body is also divided into zones. So that was what he did. He divided the body into 10 zones, 5 on the right and 5 on the left. And what he says is that whatever could be found in that zone, along that zone, is affected. So if you're hurting in the shoulder, we could access that pain via your hand, where the shoulder shows up in the hand, or the foot, for example, where the shoulder shows up in your foot. We don't have to touch the actual shoulder to heal that pain or to work on that pain. So that was what he developed. And then just a few more years later, Dr. Eunice Ingram took that philosophy and broadened it out into creating an actual map of where all the organs and glands were along those zones, so that we can work the different organs and glands. And today, all of the reflexology is based on some type of map that Eunice Ingram created. And then, so today, reflexology is practiced all around the world. Many schools, as I said, are based on the Eunice's work that she did, the map that she created. Reflexology Association of Canada was founded in 1976 here in Canada, and the International Council of Reflexology was formed in 1990. But I also want to say, and I want to go back a little bit, I want to say about reflexology that it is practiced all over the world, and in some countries, like in Denmark, for example, it is actually practiced in companies. They offer that to their employees. So companies, if you're lucky enough to live in Denmark, you can actually have that as one of your modalities. They believe in it so much, and it has actually proven to reduce absenteeism or sick leaves in work. And in other countries in Europe, like Germany and the UK, for example, reflexology is used very much in hospitals alongside nurses, and especially in the maternity wards and cardiovascular wards. So, you know, people will be in the hospital, and one of their treatments will be reflexology to help them heal better. Or sometimes if they get a reflexology session before a surgery, it's to help them calm the body down so they can go through surgery easier. I know that one of the questions that Natalie had asked me is, you know, how does reflexology work pre and post surgery, or pre and post treatments, like chemo treatments? And I was explaining to her that pre-treatments or pre-surgery, when you calm the nervous system down via reflexology or acupressure, for example, the body is at a homeostasis level, so it's calm. So all of its organs and glands can work as they were meant to work. So when you're calm and you go into surgery, it's a very different outcome as when you're nervous and go into surgery. Post-treatment or post-surgery, it helps the body heal quicker or go through the symptoms that you have, say from chemo, easier. So it's a win before and it's a win after. Actually, would be a win before and after. That would be ideal. There are different types of reflexologies. I talked a little bit about it: hand, foot, ear, face, craniosacral, body reflexology, fertility and maternity reflexology, and there are also different styles of reflexology. There is Ayurvedic reflexology, Thai reflexology. There is pretty much every country has their style. Every culture has their style or form of reflexology. Some use oils, such as Ayurvedic. In Ayurvedic reflexology, Ayurvedic is an Indian traditional foot massage, very different from foot reflexology. But Ayurvedic reflexology kind of marries the foot massage, the Indian foot massage, with conventional reflexology, and uses oils because Indian culture uses a lot of oils in the healing of the body. So that's what Ayurvedic reflexology is. In Thai reflexology, for example, they use tools. So they use it's like a wooden tool that they press into the different organs or the different areas to access that organ or gland. It's a little harder, it's a little tougher, it's a little bit more painful. Here in the Western world, we don't believe that you have to have pain to have success. Pain is no gain with us. So different beliefs, different ways, different technologies, and but they all work. So, you know, it just some of it is preference, and it's great to know different styles, just to know how, you know, some styles work better for some things and some people, and other styles work better for other things and other types of people. It's not a one fit kind of session. You know, you can vary. And the nice thing about learning different types of reflexology is that you can combine things. So if you have a client who has a specific issue, you can try it with an Ayurvedic style that might get deeper into that issue and clear it better or faster. And also it depends on the person. How open are they, or how, you know, in tune they are with their body? Because the more you are in tune with your body, the faster things get healed. That's what I'm finding. If people are really disconnected from their body, it takes a little bit more time to get to the end result of healing. So other things that reflexology is you know, it's a principle that's based on the reflexes in the foot, in the hands, or the ears that correspond to another body, that zone theory that I was talking about before. And the main purpose of reflexology is to reduce tension. It promotes relaxation, it increases circulation, and it helps bring the body back to balance. This is based on the zone theory that I mentioned to you at the beginning of the presentation. All the organs and parts fall along one zone or another. And yeah, and the other thing about reflexology is that it's non-invasive, it's cost-effective. It's clothing, no clothing is removed other than socks if we're working on your feet. If we're working on your hands, no clothing is removed. And it treats the entire body. Again, like Debbie was talking about acupressure, you know, holistic medicine is about the whole body and not just one specific area. It's not independent of one issue. One issue is part of the whole body. And that's how we look at it. And that's how our treatment plan is set. Who can receive reflexology? Basically anybody, from infants all the way up to 120 years old. Anybody can receive reflexology. The difference, though, is that the treatment is modified a little bit for clients who have issues, who are really, really young. With the really, really young, we tend to not make it as long because, you know, attention span, and you don't need to go as long because for infants, a little touch goes a long way. The elderly, same thing. You always modify it a little bit. The very, very sick, depending on, especially on what the illness might be. Pregnant women, they can receive reflexology as well. Again, there are some modifications done depending on where in their pregnancy they are and what's going on. Pre and post surgery, heart patients, or diabetics. These are generally the people that you have to modify a session for, but otherwise, everybody and everybody can receive reflexology, and the benefits are great throughout. What reflexology is not. So reflexology is not a foot massage. People always say, oh yeah, I've had foot massages before, or my husband or my wife always massages my feet, you know, gives me a foot rub. Reflexology is not a foot rub. It's not a foot massage. It's a little bit more detailed than that, and it's very specific, and it's very mindful. Like Debbie was explaining, you know, it's done with intention, and we know exactly where to go for different reasons, and that's what makes reflexology different from a foot massage. It is not a medical treatment, so we don't pretend to be medical doctors. We're not saying that we are. We don't prescribe, and we don't diagnose, and we don't treat for any specific illness. So just keep that in mind. However, reflexology being an overall treatment does heal and treat the whole body. So a typical session, usually in private practice, there's a health history taken. You can be seated on a zero gravity chair or a massage table. The reflexology therapist begins work with one localized area, usually the right foot. Some start with the left foot for different reasons, for different in different learnings. Like if they learned craniosacral reflexology, they might start with the left. It's just a different belief, a different belief system, but usually they'll start with one foot first and then go to the next, or sometimes they might work with 2 feet at the same time, depending on what the issue is and what they're working on particularly. The pressure is firm but gentle, and the session is not meant to be painful, and it usually lasts between 45 and 60 minutes. I don't have many clients, or I don't have any clients who ever felt that the whole session was painful. Usually if you come across a pain, it's a pain on a particular spot, and it's important to say when you do come across pain, because that's usually where the blockage is, and so that's where I could spend more time to clear up the issue or the problem that's going on. The other thing I wanted to mention is that reflexology is really, really great for pain management, to lessen anxiety, and really great for the elderly. I added a website there if you want to take note of it or take a picture with your phone. That website will lead you to the Reflexology Association of Canada website, and there you can find lots of this one page with lots of research that has been done and noted about different types of results with reflexology. They're actually divided in sections. So there's reflexology and anxiety, for example, reflexology and heart problems, reflexology in children, reflexology in cancer, researches that have been done and papers that have been written to prove how reflexology works in these areas. There's reflexology for different health issues for children. So just take a look if you're interested, if you're curious, or if you just want proof. That's a great place to go. Reflexologycanada.org, and then there's the English or the French. They have them in both languages. Reflexology-research. So that will lead you to some interesting reading information if you're so inclined. We talked about the different health concerns that reflexology can help you with. Again, we don't diagnose for one particular thing, high blood pressure or heart disease or diabetes, but by calming the body down, reflexology. Actually, there's quite a bit of research done with reflexology and diabetes that you might be interested in reading on that website that I gave you. But what happens is when you calm the body down, like Debbie explained, you bring the body to a level where it remembers or knows what to do next. So just by bringing it there, the body can heal itself. It's an incredible machine that our Creator created, and we're very lucky to be living in. And it's just to know how to bring it back to that place when it's out of balance, to balance it again so it can continue to do what it knows to do naturally. Like, we don't have to think about breathing. Our body just does it naturally. We don't have to tell our heart to beat. The body does it naturally. Sometimes the other organs that don't have those particular roles to do forget or are so overwhelmed or are so exhausted that they don't work as well or forget what they have to do. So reflexology or acupressure, these types of energy works, just remind the body that they can do this. They remember how to do this. So you just kind of clean up the cluster, the busyness that's going on in there, and you make way for the body to do what it already knows how to do. I added this little page to the presentation, a little takeaway self-care points, and I chose the hands only because I figured it might be easier, and you have access to your hands no matter where you are. You could be waiting at a doctor's office, you could be waiting in line to get in or out of the grocery store these days, and you're feeling anxiety, or you could be feeling anything. You have a lot easier access to your hands waiting in line than you do to your feet, because your feet are holding you up all day long, so they're already working hard. So in your hands, we have points, pressure points. In the center here, just below the third finger, just below where your hand folds, is the solar plexus point. And if with your opposite hand, if you push in with your thumb and breathe, as you push in, if you breathe in and then exhale and you release, you're actually pushing your solar plexus point, which is just below the rib cage. Well, actually not below the rib cage, but just below the breastbone, between the rib cage in your body. But if you press there 3 times, inhaling and exhaling, that's a great point for anxiety, or if you feel like you're getting really anxious or nervous, that's a great place to just push. You can even teach that to your children or to your partners, and whatever you do to one side, you need to do to the other side. So you go to the other hand and just do the same thing. So you just take 2 or 3 breaths, push in as you breathe in, exhale, let it go, and just do that 2 or 3 times, and you'll start to feel everything just calming down and rebalancing again. The other thing I wanted to show you was the lymph nodes, which are situated in reflexology in the hand, in between the webs of our fingers. And these points, if you just kind of pinch them gently, like you would pinch money, like this, right? If you would just pinch them gently in between, and just no pain. Remember, reflexology is not about pain. Just pinch them in there 2-3 times, again on both hands. this will improve your immune system. That's always an important one, especially with what's going on now in the world. So again, very easy to access, and always what you do to one hand, you do to the other. You just pinch gently in between the webs of the fingers 2-3 times. It actually feels really good. And then that's it. You're good to go. You gave your immune system a little boost. And it's easy, it's fun. You could do that while you're listening to somebody give a lecture or a talk. You could do it while waiting to get in at the grocery store, sitting in your car, waiting at a light. You'll find reasons to, but whenever you think about it, boost your immune system and calm your nervous system down, and you're good to go. It's a little booster, a little help. So I want to end with a little quote here, which is, your feet are truly the foundation of your health and wellness. With reflexology, you are only 2 feet away from better health. So thank you very much for being here today. I hope I gave you a quick little overview of what reflexology is if you didn't know, and I hope you enjoyed it.